I've been really lucky this year to have been approached for quite a few interesting projects, and it's kind of a mysterious process, the kind of behind the scenes of working with a client. So I wanted to share with you this particular process of my latest bit of commission work, just to kind of shed some light on the behind the scenes. Now, obviously, all of these projects are going to be different depending on the scope of the work, depending on who you're working for. Also, in the interest of confidentiality, I can't obviously share everything just until both parties have signed off on everything, until the client has actually published the work. I don't think I can even show it. But hopefully you will get some value out of this just from seeing the process from start to finish. And if you are interested in these kinds of videos, a channel that I can really recommend is Kendall Hilligus. She has a ton of experience with this kind of thing and some of the most useful videos on freelance work, client work, contracts. So yeah, I'll leave her channel link below, but this is just my process in this case, and I hope you find it useful. Today's video is in partnership with Intel, as my computer is kind of a huge deal in this process. Everything kind of revolves around the computer and keeping everything together and organized and keeping my mind under control. And that's actually where things start with this. In this case, and in every case so far, I think, it starts with an email. Now, I don't reach out to any clients at the moment. Freelance work and client work is not my main source of income, so I feel always really lucky to be approached by brands when they do approach me. And in this case, it was through email. They'll usually just, introduce themselves, introduce the project, the idea that they have in mind, maybe a timeline of what they're thinking, and just ask if I'm interested. And if I am interested, we will go on to talk about timelines. They will usually ask my fee. There tends to be a little bit of negotiation in the discussions about money. I'm always open to that. At first, I will always refer to my guidebook, just as a kind of reference for a ballpark figure of what rates are expected for that kind of work. But yeah, I'm always open for negotiation as long as I don't feel like I'm getting ripped off. When I decide on a job like this, I tend to ask myself 3 questions. I have like a rule of 3, and I can't remember where I first got this from, but it's something that works for me. It obviously might not fit with you and your criteria of what you're looking for in work, but for me it's, do I like the money, do I like the people, and do I like the project? And generally, if I can tick 2 of those 3 boxes, then I'll be happy to take on a job. I also find it helps to kind of look ahead to the times where, right at the beginning when you're planning it and it's super exciting and you can't believe that this company wants to work with you, it's great, but you need to look ahead to the times where things aren't necessarily going smoothly. Maybe they've rejected your first draft and it was something that you really loved. You're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you spent hours on these things, and I think it's good to at least anticipate those times, and not in a negative way, but just to assess what they're offering and think about, in the worst case scenario, if it would still be worth it. Is the uniqueness and excitingness of the project enough? And do you really connect with and like the people enough to deal with the times that might potentially get a bit stressful? And 9 times out of 10, as I said, the answer will be yes. It's always really exciting to take on a new job, and all the time, while it can be stressful, because art is stressful, things are going to turn out right in the end. So once I've decided I'm on board, amongst the back and forth, maybe some emails, maybe some phone calls, we will come up with a timeline, and I will make sure to just spread that out in my calendar. I use Google Calendar, so I make sure to just put that in throughout the dates that I feel I want to be reaching certain deadlines, just so nothing's taking me by surprise. I will also save all the important files, documents, images that they have sent to me in an easy to access place on my computer. The beauty of this computer is the Intel Optane memory that's built in. It essentially remembers my behaviors, so it's always ready to do what I need it to do when I need it to do it. It amplifies its power behind the things that are most important to me. So I'm not just able to keep all my creative ideas organized, I can also keep a hold of all the business side of things as well, with all my important files instantly and easily accessible, even the massive files. Alongside that, I will make a folder within my emails just to keep all the correspondence in one place. Just anytime I need to refer back to it, everything is right there, and I know that anything that we've discussed is going to be in that one folder. Right, so the next thing, they will probably draw up a contract. I like to draw up my own contracts as well, just making sure to cover things like cancellation fees, rush fees, licensing and terms of use. Again, there are sample contracts in that guidebook. Next is probably my favourite part, which is the brainstorming, the thumbnailing, the really creative part. You guys know, if you've seen my previous videos, I do like to jump between digital and traditional when I'm fleshing out new ideas, just making sure to refer to anything that they've given me. I do my own research as well, just looking for inspiration. information, different images, just different ideas on the internet, in magazines, and just making sure to compile everything in one place, make some notes, make some sketches, just really kind of let loose, knowing that they're not going to see any of this. So this is a time to really be free with your ideas, try everything and just have fun with it. Even if an idea seems really out of left field, go with it, see where it goes, and maybe see if you can tie that into whatever they're looking for. When it comes to that, I do get a little bit worried here and there that, you know, I want to stay on track with what they want, so it always helps to have all that information that they've sent me, everything that they have asked for, ready to get to on my computer as soon as I need to just check back, just quickly have a look, make sure I'm on track and I'm, you know, everything I'm doing aligns with whatever they outlined in the beginning. In this initial stage and the negotiation phases, it's nice having Optane memory, being able to refer really quickly back to all the important files and documents and contracts and briefs and do my brainstorming and just instantly be able to get to those things that matter. In this case, and as I usually do, I used Photoshop to draw up a kind of mind map of all the things that they had sent me and things that I'd found myself as well, images, keywords, just general ideas, just any spark of inspiration that I had. I made a decent sized mind map on my screen for that, and then I also started compiling a load of references for the different elements that would be used in this illustration. There's a lot of back and forth in these planning stages, and it's nice knowing that my computer has my back. It knows what I'm using most and it allows me to jump right into those larger applications like Photoshop. So less loading time means ideas can be materialized instantly, even while I'm talking to clients. Then when I'm happy with everything, I'll draw up my first draft. I will try to include as much visual information as possible without, you know, fully fleshing out a finished piece for them. You don't want to commit that much time and energy and supplies to creating something that they could turn down. So just make sure you're providing as much information as you can with as little effort as you can. That might mean doing a sketch but not including colour, maybe having a colour chart by the side or a small colour thumbnail just to let them know, you know, the composition of things, the important things. They want to know the important information. What is the composition? What colours are you going to use? If you're going to use text, what's that going to look like? How's it all going to come together? And what is the overall style going to be? So in this case, I did one of the elements of the illustration fully rendered and then the rest was all more pared back, but they could at least refer to that one element and know what the finished piece is going to look like overall. And again, that was just my method and that was just for this particular project. Everyone does drafts differently. Do what works for you and do whatever you feel is going to be enough for that client and give them enough to work with. I also will send off that first draft with a lot of written information just to make sure that the visual elements that I'm providing are making sense in the bigger scheme of things for them. You want to explain as much as you can so they know how it's going to tie together for the final piece. And then once I've got their response, I will tweak accordingly depending on how many drafts we'd agreed to, and that is why it's important to outline how many drafts there will be. You don't want to end up having them ask for, you know, change that little thing, and then, no, I also want you to change that little thing, and now that you've done that, can you also change that? You need to make it clear that you're going to change the things they want you to change, but it's not happening in dribs and drabs. Again, that's probably not going to happen, but it is important to cover yourself in those situations. So once all the kinks have been ironed out, it's fine to get on with the final piece. I, again, in this stage, need to have as much visual information at my disposal as possible. This is the time where you really start to doubt yourself. The imposter syndrome starts to come in. You wonder why they've chosen you for this project. So I like to have something to ground me, just knowing that I'm referring to these things. This was the plan. I'm going to get on with it and it's going to turn out great. I'm going to give them exactly what they wanted and more. When you are working for a client, they are most likely going to want a high resolution file of the finished image. So if I'm working traditionally, I will scan at about 300, maybe 600 DPI. Remember, they're probably going to want to have the flexibility to use and scale whatever you send them to their liking. They might also ask for a physical copy. In that case, I will still scan the artwork just to make sure I have it for my own records. And then it's just a case of making sure you're editing those scans to have, you know, the best color, get rid of any dust marks there might be, just really get the quality to its peak before you send it off. Optane memory and the 8th generation i5 core processor in this computer means that launching and working on large scale file sizes like big image scans is really seamless. I have as much flow and control over the work on my screen as I do with the work in my hands. And when I'm happy, again, depending on what the client has asked for, I will either send it off as a JPEG file if that's what they wanted. Otherwise, I will usually send it off as a TIFF because I do find that those just tend to give the best quality of an image that you can get. Once you've got the final approval, you send an invoice. I would just say make sure to include a kind of deadline on that invoice, and make a note of when the money is due by. It's not uncommon for them to kind of forget to pay you. I don't know, it tends to take some time to get a hold of your money, so it's nice having that deadline spelled out on the invoice, just so you can give them a nudge and say, hey, that money was due a few weeks ago. And then the waiting game begins to see the work wherever they are going to use it. It tends to take quite a bit of time. Obviously on their end there's a lot of logistics in getting that work ready to present however they plan on using it. The one fun thing, if it is on anything printed, they will usually send you a sample of it, which is always really cool. And then, you know, the last thing is just to make sure that all your files are stored away, just ready there for future reference. I always archive all the emails, and I also have an archive folder on my computer that I back up to the cloud, so that all of that correspondence and all those files and everything that's gone into that project will always be saved and safe, just ready to refer back to if it ever needs to be. So hopefully this video has been useful for you guys. Let me know if you're working on any fun projects at the moment, or if you set yourself your own briefs to get on with. If you'd like to know more about Optane Memory or this particular computer, make sure to check out the links I will have in the description. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.